Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Stress is Stressing Me Out podcast. I am your host, Maki Adeyemi, and today we will be discussing tips for divorce stress. Before we get into today's episode, I want to read our devotional. Today's devotional comes from Luke chapter 12, 22 through 34, and it says, Seek His Kingdom. The title of this devotional is Quarantined by Fear. In 2020, an outbreak of the coronavirus left the world in fear. People were quarantined, countries were put under lockdown, flights and large events were canceled. Those living in areas with no known cases still feared they might get the virus. Graham Davey, an expert in anxiety, believes that negative news broadcasts are likely to make you sadder and more anxious. A meme that circulated on social media showed a man watching the news on TV, and he asked how to stop worrying. In response, another person in the room reached over and flipped off the TV, suggesting that the answer might be a shift in focus. Luke 12 gives us some advice to help us stop worrying. Seek His kingdom. We seek God's kingdom when we focus on the promise that His followers have an inheritance in heaven. When we face difficulty, we can shift our focus and remember that God sees us and knows our needs. Jesus encourages His disciples, Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. God enjoys blessing us. Let's worship Him, knowing He cares for us more than the birds of the air and the flowers of the field. Even in difficult times, we can read the scriptures, pray for God's peace, and trust in our good and faithful God. Okay. Again, today's episode, we will be discussing tips for dealing with divorce stress. Divorce can trigger many emotions, and it's not uncommon for them to build up and leave you feeling emotionally drained. But if you don't properly deal with the divorce stress and negative emotions, the consequences can begin to slowly affect you in deeper ways. You could develop trust issues that make it harder for you to move on in a new relationship, or your self-confidence can take a nosedive. To make sure you stay emotionally strong and healthy, it's important to learn how to deal with divorce stress in a productive way. And when I think about divorce stress, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie A Woman Scorned, the Betty Broderick story. The actress Meredith Baxter Burney. She played Betty Broderick, and I was thinking, just looking at that, the stress that she put her ex-husband and her kids under by doing some of the things and the acts that she did, running her car into the front of the house, coming in and taking a cake and smearing it all over his bed and, all over the floor. I have two siblings that are divorced. I have a brother who divorced his wife when he was incarcerated. And then my sister, she recently went through a divorce, I would say maybe 2 years now. They tried to work it out for the kids. It just wouldn't happen. So they tried to co-parent with their sons. But I'm hearing that that's not, working as well. So they agreed to stop talking to each other. But her ex-husband, he still, want to be in his son's life. So these are tips on how you can deal with the stress of a divorce. Number one, Stay physically fit. Stay as active as possible by keeping a regular exercise routine. Physical activity can help stabilize your emotions since it aids in relieving tension, anger, and anxiety. According to Harvard Health, exercise can calm you down since it reduces levels of the body's stress hormones, adrenaline, and cortisol. Exercise has been successfully used to treat clinical depression and anxiety disorders, so get moving. Number 2, pay attention to your emotional needs. Find a support group to participate in and or a therapist to talk with. A little therapy can go a long way when you're feeling overwhelmed emotionally. Take some time to reflect and process your emotions, ideally before a legal process is started. Get the support you need to do this. Therapy, divorce support groups, journaling, meditation, creative expression, and simply talking with your trusted friends or family. It is important for you to take responsibility for your own emotional well-being and make sure that you nurture yourself emotionally, physically, and spiritually. To be honest with everyone out there, I do not believe in therapy, not the classical therapy when you're talking about Freud and B.F. Skinner and Carl Jung and all those people. But I do believe in biblical therapy. Number 3, do things that nurture you emotionally and physically. Read a good book, get plenty of rest, take a hot bath, develop a new hobby, eat healthy and nutritious foods, and surround yourself with positive people. Put effort into living a lifestyle that will promote feelings of self-worth and esteem. Now more than ever, it is time to practice self-care. Number 4, give yourself permission to feel. Feeling a range of emotions is normal, and what we do with the emotions we are feeling plays a big role in the quality of life we experience. Avoid destructive activities such as drinking or self-medicating when trying to deal with your feelings. Instead, let yourself feel. Once you let yourself go through the grieving process, it'll be easier for you to move on. It's normal and healthy to relive both good and bad moments in time when you were married. It's an unavoidable part of the grief process. Number 5, change any expectations you have. When you're going through a divorce, you might feel as though you've lost control over everything. But remember that no one has control over the feelings and actions of another person. Don't try to control any aspect of what your spouse might feel or what actions they will take. Let go of what you feel the outcome should be and learn to accept whatever might happen. Number 6, let go of problems that are beyond your control. If you are faced with an uncomfortable or painful situation, learn to let it go. Take some time to figure out what is best for you, and then come back to it. Stay focused on what you have control over and let go of the rest. Refuse to engage in conflict with your ex. If the two of you can't be around each other without arguing, it's better just to walk away. Number 7, don't make any hasty decisions. When you're going through a highly stressful situation, you shouldn't make any decisions or changes to your life until you've thought all of the consequences. No one is capable of making excellent decisions during a life crisis. So take it one day at a time until you feel ready to think clearly and make rational decisions, not driven by emotions. Take time to think things through and thoroughly weigh all your options. When making decisions, use logical thinking instead of emotional thinking to guide your decision making. Give yourself time and be patient with the decision-making process. Number 8, make time for fun. Remember to laugh. Plan activities that bring you pleasure and participate in them regularly. Maintain a close circle of friends and socialize often. Make sure not to isolate yourself from others. Get out and enjoy life, even if it means forcing yourself to. You'll find that once you are out engaging in fun activities, you'll feel less stressed. Number 9, let go and move on. Take the time needed to heal from the divorce and those feelings of loss. Try to look inward and own your responsibility in the problems that led to the divorce. Forgive yourself and your spouse, and don't allow the issues from this marriage to follow you into a new relationship. Taking time to identify what caused the divorce and to change what you need to change about the way you related to your ex will only help you move on after. So what do you think? What are your thoughts? Tweet me at stressingisor email me at sismo1875@gmail.com. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Google Plays, Stitcher, Intune, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. Until next week, let not your heart be troubled. Relax.